Hi, my name is Riley. My placement opportunity occurred at Bracken Ridge State High School, with a specific lesson I'm going to address today being the Grade 10 Theory HB lesson. The lesson in question took place towards the end of the term with assessment nearing. With that in mind, I created a lesson plan where students were allowed a large portion of that lesson to work on their assessment, while also having the students participate in engaging, understanding and retention activities about the term's work. This allowed students to readdress content as well as set self-attained goals and promote autonomy, while also showing myself at what stages of learning the students were at. In structuring this lesson, I used the opportunity to implement various forms of learning through peer-assisted, ICT, and self-directed learning practices, as well as integrating various learning theories from Vygotsky's theory of scaffolding, which affords the educator the support to lead students clearly through the zone of proximal development in cooperation with Bloom's taxonomy method and the transfer of knowledge theories. Beginning the lesson, setting the expectation for the assessment was key. Upon entering the classroom, students were told that lesson intentions would be to refine knowledge of motor principles in Babington and different shots in their affordances, followed by the success criteria of implement the knowledge into their assessment and have it ready to be handed in on Monday, as the class did reside on a Friday. Here we began the lesson with 2 engaging activities to refine students' knowledge on motor skills and varying aspects of Babington, simultaneously addressing the learner's initial stage to the zone of proximal development. The first activity being a scrumbler, which is a virtual online whiteboard where I allowed students to warm up their minds by collaboratively answering what are the different types of motor skills and what are the different shots in Babington and their affordances. As a class, we spoke about each of the notes and how they can be used in a game. Following to this, the students participated in a Kahoot quiz, testing their individual retention levels for the term's content, while also providing students with an engaging whole class activity before the self-directed work commenced. The 2 warm-up activities allowed students to refine knowledge used in their assessment through positive, collaborative, and engaging activities, while simultaneously showing myself at what stage of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development each of the students were at. It was clear the majority of students had a clear understanding of the content that was needed for their assessment, while others knew the content yet were unable to connect its application to their assessment. Over the course of the remaining 50 minutes of the lesson, a majority of the students were continuing with self-directed assessment work, and an extension task was given out to a few students, allowing them to either collaboratively or by themselves create a Babington lesson plan which appealed to their cohort. This allowed students who had finished their assessment to extend their current theoretical knowledge on motor skills and tactical awareness into a practical sense. This portion of the lesson allowed students to follow through Bloom's taxonomy method, encouraging systematic thinking about relative objectives and with different ways to evaluate them. While checking in with students, I supported the guidance and encouragement stage of Vygotsky's principle, while simultaneously encouraging the final stages of Bloom's taxonomy through supporting students' individualized self-attained goals and autonomy. The use of a multifaceted pedagogical approach to the lesson allowed for the inclusion and support of students of varying learning stages. While some students resided solely in the guidance and encouragement stage of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, others surpassed by being able to work autonomously, showing clear succession through the stages of Bloom's taxonomy and the overall succession of their self-attained goals through their assessment and extension task work. Having a variation in activities allows for differentiation amongst the levels of learners in the class, whilst not drawing attention to the varying levels of academic ability. Additionally, supporting the promotion of the conceptualized notion that knowledge created can later be transferred to accumulate new knowledge, done through the use of retention activities to aid in the assessment and transferring theoretical knowledge of Babington and tactical awareness to a practical sense through the extension task. Within the last few moments of the lesson, I used the opportunity to ask the students to share what they have done in the lesson and how they feel are projecting to finish their assessment. This allowed students to see where each other were at and use the near completed and completed students' reliefs of being done as a source of motivation, supporting the notion that students benefit from observing behaviors and witnessing outcomes from those behaviors. Following to the lesson, a self-reflection as well as a sit-down reflection with my tertiary advisor and supervising teacher allowed me to discuss ways to build for future lessons, both supporting my use of a multifaceted pedagogical approach to lesson while also integrating different aspects of ICT and various activities to promote autonomy and learning growth. Whilst talking about my lesson with my tertiary advisor, she highlighted taking into account a student's functional attention span, addressing how some students began to look agitated towards the lesson and through the integration of a brain break activity can be used to promote higher rates of productivity. This point I took on board and began to implement it with my other classes and saw positive results. Both my tertiary advisor and supervising teacher also suggested the use of an exit pass. This would allow students to have a direct goal in which they need to obtain before leaving the lesson. Whilst I did conclude the lesson with a verbal discussion about the period's work, not all the students joined in. This use of an exit pass can enable myself to quickly assess the students' understanding and allow students to reflect and review on their performance during that lesson. Integrating this strategy into further lessons did afford clarity in students' understanding, and I saw students positively engaging in the task, and will be an aspect that I integrate into further lessons. Thanks guys for listening.